president of high technology companies and to answer the students' many questions. As I reminisce about David Packard's most enjoyable visit, I am reminded how I always walked a few blocks to class from my office. I must say, however, walking alongside the 6'5" David Packard was more like running. I will always remember the most poignant question put forth by one of the participants in the aftermath of David Packard's 1982 lecture. Quote, "Mr. Packard, how come Hewlett Packard has been so successful?" End quote. Without missing a beat, David Packard said, quote, "I guess we just found a way to make a better product." End quote. This book explores how HP, sometimes through excellent strategic choices and sometimes by stumbling, found a way to make the, quote, better product, end quote, Mr. Packard described. Once again, I am pleased and honored to re-encounter this iconic firm, a firm I grew up with as a student, as an electrical engineer, a professor, and now through a superb book by my friend and colleague, Robert A. Bergelman, and his co-authors. Becoming Hewlett Packard will surely endure as the defining strategic analysis of HP, a uniquely American technology giant. Modesto A. Madik, President Emeritus, Florida International University. Preface. Elucidating the Process of Corporate Becoming, an Intellectual Odyssey. Robert A. Bergelman. Half a century ago, the out-of-the-mainstream economist John Kenneth Galbraith published The New Industrial State, 1967, in which he describes how the developed economies, socialist as well as capitalist, were inexorably bifurcating. He observed that one part of the economy continued to consist of the traditional mass of atomistic entrepreneurial firms, still controlled by the market, and therefore, at the time, favored by the mainstream economic textbooks, and that the other part increasingly comprised a relatively small number, in the hundreds, of massively large corporations that formed a new, quote, industrial system, end quote. These corporations were able to wrest control away from the market and therefore were largely ignored by the mainstream economics textbooks. They did so with long-term planning, strong reliance on technological innovation, control of the demand for their products and services through marketing, expertise, and self-funding of their large capital investment, research and development, R&D, and growth through retained earnings. Associated with the rise of these giant corporations, Galbraith saw that the development of a, quote, technostructure, end quote, that, quote, embraces all who bring specialized knowledge, talent, or experience to group decision-making. This, not the management, is the guiding intelligence, the brain of the enterprise, end quote. By implication, the rise of the technostructure indicated that the role of management basically had changed from substantive decision-making to ratification. Related to this, Galbraith noted that the great late 19th century entrepreneurial industrial consolidators, Rockefeller, Morgan, Duke, Harriman, Guggenheim, Durant, DuPont, Chrysler, Hartford, Hilton, were able to unite control of capital with unquestioned authority in the enterprise. By the mid-20th century, however, quote, no one of equal notoriety ever followed these pioneers. The names of the successors in office are lost to history or were never known, end quote. Concomitant with these developments, Galbraith also pointed at the radical decline in the power of the shareholders of these large, complex, and technologically sophisticated corporations, while providing a compelling theoretical synthesis of various fragmented insights into the evolution of the industrialized world. The thesis of the new industrial state turned out to be only partially correct. First, as Andy Grove and I have reported, of the largest 100 companies in